Welcome to another episode of Humans for Humanity. Before we begin today, I want you to take a breath. Not the kind that you take to keep going, the kind that stops time. The kind that brings you back to your body, to your truth, to the place before the forgetting. This space is not just a podcast, it's a return signal. A call to the ones who have spent lifetimes shape-shifting just to stay safe. The ones who mistook stillness for danger, silence for shame, and their own magic for something that had to be earned. Not today. Today we stop waiting. Today we let the codes speak. We let the soul remember what the mind tried to forget. That you are not broken, you're becoming. What you're about to hear is not a performance. It's a reckoning of truth, of timeline, of sound and silence. A conversation that doesn't just land in your ears, it vibrates in your very bones. So welcome to the remembering, to the unraveling, to the moment that finds you exactly where you are and brings you home anyway. This is Humans for Humanity, and this is your reckoning. Today, I'm honored to welcome Erin to the conversation, though many of you may know her by the name that speaks in numbers, Keys of Wisdom 369. She's not here to impress, she's here to activate, to call back the parts of you that forgot they were sacred, to crack open the illusions you didn't even know you were still carrying. Erin is not just a guide, she's a walking return. A woman who dismantled her own cages, who stared down silence until it sang, and who now speaks not just with words, but with a knowing that rearranges something in your spirit when you hear her. This is the reckoning of the living code. Her story doesn't begin with trauma, it begins with remembering that nothing has ever truly been separate, that we are the evidence, that we were always the medicine. She didn't wait for permission, she buried the concept of waiting altogether. She let the collapse come, let the false timelines burn, and in the rubble of roles that she no longer needed, she built something real. A path where silence became scripture, where being became enough, and where freedom stopped sounding like a fantasy and started feeling like home. Once, stillness terrified her. Now that's where her genius lives. She's living proof that you can walk through hell with no map and still come out holy. She's writing a book now, not because she needs a platform, but because the truth is too loud to contain. She came here not to offer answers, but to vibrate a remembering that your awakening is already in you. And it's not waiting for perfect timing. It's waiting for your willingness to look. This is her reckoning. Raw, reverent, and encoded with the frequency of homecoming. Let's begin.
I want to tell somebody that the truth that you've been searching for has been staring you in the face, but you refuse to make eye contact with the version of you that knows. And if this is for you, I want to tell you that you've been negotiating your identity through pain, because somewhere along the way, pain became familiar, and that familiar started to feel like truth. And now, even though you say you've been healing, every time the pain whispers, you reach for an old mask. The fighter, the over-explainer, the fixer, or the one we know all too well, the I'm fine mask. And every time you feel the pain start to rise, you try to outsmart it with logic, because you're still trying to bypass the part of you that's begging to be remembered. And you're still trying to heal and reclaim parts of you without grieving who you had to be to survive certain moments in your life. But your pain was never meant to be your purpose. It was never meant to be your identity. And the longer you pretend to not know who you are, the longer you stay in agreements with versions of you that you created only to survive moments. And if this is for you, I want to tell you that it's time. And it's been staring you down for long enough, and it is not something that you can reason with. And it's time to sit with the version of you before pain. The one who never had to earn their existence. The one who never needed a mask to be worthy. The one who's always been waiting for you. It's time to return to who you were before the masks you crafted out of your pain. Love you guys.
Humans for Humanity is more than a podcast. It's a living experiment, a spiritual archive, a collective echo of what it means to walk the obstacle course of embodiment and come out more whole than we began. Each episode is guided by spirit and shaped by tarot. I don't write questions in advance. I pull cards and follow the energy. Because I believe the soul already knows what wants to be spoken. It just needs permission to speak. Behind this project is something bigger. I channeled a map called the Blueprint. It's my theory of consciousness. It says that we don't just show up on Earth. We drop in with purpose. And as we move through life, we traverse an invisible structure made of energetic gateways, each linked to a chakra, each initiating us into a deeper version of truth, power, and love. Every human story holds clues. When someone speaks about betrayal, grief, purpose, survival, or awakening, I listen for the frequency underneath of the facts. The Blueprint helps me track where their soul is in the arc of return, what chakra they're wrestling with, what lesson they came here to embody. This podcast helps me prove the Blueprint by living it in real time, by letting people tell the truth of what they've been through and noticing the patterns that emerge. Because when we zoom out, we see your story isn't separate from mine. And our pain isn't random, it's part of the passage. Humans for Humanity is the collective field where those pieces come together, where what once broke us becomes what makes us medicine. It's a sacred conversation between one voice and the many, one soul and the system that we're all moving through. And if we keep listening, we just might remember why we came. Thank you so much, Erin, for being here today. I'm so excited to have you.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Hold on one second. No, I don't want it like that. Hold on. Okay, I didn't want to make you all dizzy like last time, but I wanted to make the screen a certain way. Okay, so thank you so much, Erin, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is
Let's kind of jump right in. This is going to be, it's going to be a good one. So everyone grab your pens and your tissues and whatever else you might.
I already feel it.
Let's get this show.
I was like,
the frequency was coming through, messing up my intro. I'm like, no. All right, let's get started here. I think the part of your story that I want to start with here is going to be right to like the intelligence in your messages, right? So 5 of Pentacles in reverse, 2 of Pentacles, 10 of Pentacles. This is generational. Okay, so this is something that had to awaken in you in a certain time, like an eggshell cracking open. This is something that you didn't have and then woke up to, and it caused an imbalance to balance. Like, how did this eggshell crack open to where you realized, oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing?
I think I had to realize that the problem was me. And until I was ready to acknowledge that the problem was me and that the solution was also me, I just stayed stuck in this cycle. And believe it or not, the thing that cracked the shell the most was I had somebody say something to me. It was literally just like a random sentence. And I was talking about something in the past, and they literally just said, "Hey, sis, you can put that down whenever you're ready." And it was in that moment that I literally paused long enough. And I'm like, okay. And then it's like the way I always tell to people when I'm talking about myself is I'm like, I walked around like I had to carry some kind of a scarlet letter, because I was raised in this sense that your actions have consequences and they're your consequences forever. And I used to like to learn things the hard way. And I learned things the hard way for a very long part of my life. And third time's the charm. I just always laugh because, the power of numbers and whatnot. But I'm like, third time was definitely the charm every time. But I always had to find rock bottom. I basement, had to find the trap door. I had to find the crawl space, and I would have to destroy myself. And then even when I started to rebuild myself, I was still rebuilding myself with that logic of I have to carry this consequence. It was never like, you can just put it down. You paid your debt. You did this, you did that. I thought I had to carry that until somebody told me I could give myself permission to stop. And that's where it cracked. It cracked. And it wasn't even a crack. I want to call it like an earthquake, because it was that powerful. It was like in that moment, like every single mask of who I thought I had to be just crumbled. And it was like, I don't have to be this sister, this daughter, this mom, this friend, all of these things that I thought I had to carry, because that's just what you do. And that's what cracked it for me. But it was literally I was the problem. Because now when I sit where I sit now, I always ask myself, but who told you? That is the one thing, like when I play, I'll call devil's advocate with myself, because that's what I do. I literally sit there and go, but who told me? Who told me it has to be this way? Who told me this is the filter? Who told me that this is the belief? And I always find myself, when I challenge it, coming full circle. No matter what it is, I come full circle. And then I paused again long enough to realize the only thing I have ever found more of is myself. No matter what. I've only ever found more of myself. It doesn't matter what the situation. It doesn't matter the relationship. It doesn't matter. It's always a different version or a different expression of me. And I think another part of the cracking for me was I want to say before, we all say like our spiritual journey, but I think if we take that label out for a minute, most of us would acknowledge that we've been working on ourselves in some capacity for a really long time, until somebody gave us a label, whether you went to therapy, whether you journaled, whether you drew, whether you just did your own thing. You were doing something. But I realized that it wasn't even just like the spiritual journey. Mm-hmm. It was, I did therapy for a really long time. Everything was always looking through the lens of I needed fixed. Mm-hmm. I didn't need fixed. I needed to feel. And I chose to numb things out and think that I had to fight to exist. And sometimes I truly was. Sometimes I was fighting to take my next breath. Sometimes I was fighting to see another day. But I was always fighting, because that's what I thought I had to do. All the way back to my childhood, everything was a fight, even if it was a quiet fight. And most of mine were quiet fights. There were a few that were public, but most of them were quiet, because we fight in silence.
Mm-hmm. That was good. That's a really powerful question to it's like immediate grounding. Like, okay, let me address that this is a self-limiting belief that's disguising itself as fact. That's a hard thing to get yourself to recognize. And that's a really good way to take yourself out of that. Like, is it fact, or did someone just tell me long enough ago without it being questioned that it became fact? Like where did that begin?
That's for me. That was it for me. Is I realized where that like where people say, oh, like take it as gospel or whatever. I took everything that was given to me as gospel, whether it was what my parents told me, teachers told me, coaches told me, whatever. And I took that and I internalized it so hard, and I realized I crafted that identity for everything that I did, and none of them were actually me. And I remember, like, even in high school, I used to play volleyball, and I was a really good volleyball player. I hurt my foot. I had a foot. But like we were on and I had like I've had a total of like 6-7 surgeries. Even like in my adult life, I actually just had to have another one. But that was my identity. And when I hurt myself my senior year, I was done. Like I was done. I didn't even get to play the season. But now as an adult, I look back and I go, I didn't know who I was because that was the identity other people gave me. Yeah, I loved volleyball. I was good, right? But that was my identity. That was everything I built my foundation on. And then what happens when that identity cracks? I wasn't less me just because I couldn't play volleyball, but I didn't know who I was. And I thought about that. And then I've like taken that and applied it to all the other areas of my life. And I've been like, so I just accepted the things that people told me I was or who I was supposed to be. And then when I didn't live up to that, then there's shame, then there's guilt, then there's resentment, then there's hiding, then there's self-sabotage, then there's self-destruction, because all of the versions of me I thought I had to be never felt like home. They actually felt wrong. They felt fake. And then I tried to destroy myself because I felt like I was fake.
Right. You know that something doesn't match, but you're not recognizing it's not matching because it's not supposed to match. It's not.
Correct.
It's safety, not true, not authentic. And it's interesting. I feel like at times when we start to do that and identify ourselves, with something too much, that'll happen. Like you get hurt, and it's like, okay, without this, how long would I have identified myself solely with this? Like it's like that. You have to step away type of thing.
And I don't know if you maybe ever said it to you when you grew up, but like people always told me the things that are worth something in life you have to fight for. And I internalized that too. Everything in life that's worth something, you have to fight for. And that was when the mask of the fighter got crafted. Whether it was grades, whether it was sports, whether it was friends, whether it was relationships, whether it was family, you have to fight for the things to achieve them. And then in the same fact, it's like, you're the opposition. Right. Who are you fighting? Because you're fighting yourself. And that, like, now for me, all of those times when nothing felt right is proof to me that knowing has always existed. It has always existed. It has always tried to push through. It is always in there. Is the invitation. If you pause long enough, it is reminding you that's not who you are, but you don't listen. Right. And that's it. For me, I didn't listen.
It's in the middle of discomfort.
Because silence was scary. Silence was loud. And that's the only way I could hit it. Back then, silence was loud. Yeah. Because I sat with myself. And I think I didn't realize that till now. Right. It's loud because it's you. And it's loud and it's uncomfortable because you've never listened, and you may not even recognize that version, that energy, or that voice because you've ran from it for so long, and you don't realize that it's you that you're running from. Yeah. But that's always been the proof to me.
Absolutely.
When people say we forget or we have to awaken, I'm always like, but pause. What if that's another thing to like crumble for a minute? What if you always knew and you just ran from it? And you were so busy looking at the outside world that you didn't stop long enough to just listen.
Right. So the invitation then that sits in the middle of this discomfort, right?
Yes.
This invitation calls to you. I'm going to flip 3 cards. Give me one line that this invitation would have said to you for each card. Oh, 5 of Cups, your grief, your pain, your feels, all the feels. What did that invitation call to you in regard to that?
I think the first time that I actually dropped all my masks, and I'm laughing that card came out. My dad almost died.
I don't know. I wonder what card this is going to be, but it's going to be intense. 5 of Cups.
It is. And now I'm actually, I would have brought Kleenex. My dad was like out of nowhere diagnosed with heart failure. And it was really bad. And he got like emergency transported to another hospital. And in that moment, my sister and I had to ask a lot of my mom that I don't really think we should have had to ask as a parent to be there. And there was a very good chance he wasn't going to make it. Thankfully he did. So like, great, good, awesome. But in that moment, there was this very scary, like, I'm going to lose the person that's always been there for me unconditionally. And I will say that my dad has been there unconditionally. Right. But it was in that moment, and I get that people deal with things differently, but there was a conversation between me and my mom, and it woke up the child part of me that stuffed everything down and never said anything. I lost my whole shit. Oh, my whole, I just lost it.
No, you're fine.
Sorry. No cussing.
Yeah.
But I completely lost it. And it wasn't.
No, you're fine.
That's why I said it wasn't pretty. I mean, honestly, it was probably one of the most unhinged things I've ever done. Like, I'm just gonna say, it was probably one of the most unhinged things I've ever done. And I even kept it in that moment until they got back from the hospital, until he was finally released. And then finally in their front yard, I just lost it. And it was just one of those things, like, I don't have to be this person anymore. I don't care that at the time, I think I was like 40, but I'm like, I don't care that I'm 40. Like, the little girl in me has had to carry all of this in silence my entire life, and I am done being quiet. And I know in that moment that I turned into somebody that most of the people who witnessed that had no idea who that was. And their first thing that they did was like, what is wrong with you? And me, I never felt so free in my entire life. Where I'm like, that is the first time I really stood up to myself for my family, where every mask I thought I had to wear crumbled, where the whole idea that like, you have to just respect people because they have some title, they have some placeholder, mom, dad, family, this, whatever. Like, I'm not a child anymore, and I don't have to keep your secrets. I don't have to be quiet. I'm not your, I don't even want to be your, what is the word I'm looking for? I don't want to be your confidant. I am still your child, no matter how grown up I get. And I think in that moment, I realized just how much weight I carried in silence because they call me the strong one. She's the strong one. She holds the family together. She advocates for everybody. She doesn't take no for an answer. Well, I don't. I don't, because I also had a sick child. She's 10 now, but I also had a sick child. I learned how to navigate the medical system for the last decade. I don't want to carry that. I did it because I had to, and I did that because it's my baby. I do it for my family because I love them, but I don't want to be the strong person. And in that moment was when I crumbled. But I personally never felt so free. I never felt so much weight dissipate in a matter of 30 seconds that I think while everybody was shocked by the version of me they saw, I was at peace with the version I stepped into. Right. And it was there that I think I realized I didn't care anymore. And I don't mean that in a like not with feeling kind of way. I didn't care how I was received by anyone anymore.
Right. Do you feel like that moment was you actually kind of remembering that version of you when you first realized that, okay, I'm I've been cast as the role of the strong one, which means I can't feel. Like I need to carry everything and just be okay. Do you feel like that moment was like you remembering that being strong doesn't mean not feeling? There's a version of you that existed before you had to shut it off, before that situation convinced you being strong for everyone means not feeling it and just being okay. It's like you remembered. That was one of the cracking of the eggshells for you.
Yes. It was like you didn't always have to have your game face on, and fighting doesn't mean suppressing. And that's what I did for so long. And I don't want to say I numbed it out completely, because like I would break down in the shower, I would do this, or, but like, it was like, that's enough. I would carve out, I'm not even going to do this, I'm so messed up. I would carve out time. You can have your 10 minutes in the shower. Now put your big girl pants back on. And that was the way I lived so much of my life for so long, was the strong ones you don't get to express your feelings. It's not that you don't have them. You almost have them on steroids, but you bury them. You carve out time, you half feel them, and then you tie them back up again and put your ball and chains back on and continue on with life. And I think one of the most, some people take as a compliment, I don't, that's okay, is when people be, but you carried it so well, never. That's not a compliment. It's not. That's a mask. And that's the thing.
It's not. Yes.
Telling me that you wear it well, you'd never know. That's not a compliment. That means I've done a really good job of putting on my fake face and fake it till you make it. And that doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Right.
And that's what, yes, I agree 1,000%. That was another cracking, because I didn't have to be the strong one. And I actually don't think in that moment that I knew who I was. I mean, I did. That's why I said when it's the remembrance, in that moment, I realized I didn't have to be. But who was I, because I'd been doing this for so long?
Right. It's like you're seeing yourself, and at the same time, you're like, wait a minute, if that's me, who was that? Like, who's the person for the last 5 years? If this is me right now, it's like you have this like, oh.
And then when you
like almost like that movie where the twin switch.
Yes. But it's almost like when you pause and I want to say you let it ripple backwards is the way I want to say that. Everybody looks at the outwards ripple, but when you let it ripple backwards and you're like, how long have I actually been doing this? Because I can look back and tell you how long I was consciously doing it. And then I'm like, oh no, I've been doing this since I was a kid. And then it really got messed up.
Yeah.
It got really messed up in that cracking, because I'm like, do I even know who I am without being this person? But it's the revelation, I think, for me, that you really can just put it down. You really can. And we make it harder because we don't know who we are without that. We don't know who we are without fighting. What if you didn't have to fight? What if you didn't have to be the strong one?
Right.
And the thing is, I also proved to myself at the same time, I felt safe enough to break down with myself. So it's not a matter of holding space for myself. It's just that I didn't want to take up all the space.
Oh, that needs to be on a t-shirt or something. Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's like when you're convinced to stay small for so long, you're like, oh, like I can extend my arms, like I can spread out. It's that realization you don't have to stay in that container that you had outgrown, but you were like smushed into for so long.
Yes.
I want to see what this one is. Woo! The wound of the unclaimed soul.
The audacity of
becoming everything but who you truly are. Right?
You can't
Becoming
even make it
everything
up.
but
That's why I
who
said you can't even make this
truly
up.
are. This wound. No, you can't. And it was sitting there the whole time we were talking too. It's just like, wait till you flip me over.
But I love
This
that
wound
that's the
forms
part.
when life is shaped by survival. Yeah. Survival, expectations, or silence until your true self fades beneath it all. You've lived for others, played the roles, barely asked what you need. It can leave you haunted by a life that looks full but feels hollow, aching to remember who you were before you learned to forget. That's it. I proved the blueprint. We're done. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Nailed it. Confirmations. But I think I wish more people.
Thanks. Episode 3.
Okay, but seriously though, like that's
Right.
wild. That's wild. And that was it. Like that's what it was. It was at that moment.
Okay.
That moment was what. But like I want people to look at your card. Seriously, I want people to look at that card for a minute. Your unclaimed soul. It exists. You don't need permission. You don't have to chase it. It's already here. But the thing is, and I mean, I've heard you say it. I've read your blueprint. I love it. Like, if you have not read that, please go read that. But
Coming back soon.
people spend so much, and I'll talk for myself, but I see it with other people too. You spend so much of your existence in your being who you wish people had been for you, that you're missing the calling from your soul that's just waiting for you to step into it. You are the step. It is already there. It's never left you. It's been sitting there patiently waiting for you to acknowledge it. And it comes through tears. It comes through songs. It comes through people. It comes in silence. It's just always there. And it's just waiting for you to literally put the shit down and claim what's already and always been yours.
Right. Like you said, an invitation.
Yes.
It's you accepting the invitation.
Yes.
The Emperor in reverse. What did that invitation call? This is going to be good. What did that invitation call to you about the opportunity to take back your power?
I think it also goes back to being the problem and the solution, because I used to blame everybody else. And it was me. I gave my power away, or I invested myself to the point of beyond empty. I showed up for people because I never wanted people to feel as abandoned as I did. And I think in that moment, I realized how much I lost myself, but I wouldn't change it because I found more of myself every time I tried to destroy myself.
Right.
And I think for me, honestly, I think it made me realize how... Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. No, you go. You go.
It's like I think the weird thing in a lot of that was like, I realized in my own life how, you know how we often say, like, we kind of put one of our parents on a pedestal and then the other one is kind of the problem or what we're healing from or whatever. I think I realized how they were both a problem per se, as where one was one extreme, one was the other, but they both failed. I don't want to say that. They both failed to create safety and security. And I went looking for that in all the wrong places. And that's how I lost myself. But that's why I said, it's like, but I see how everything just comes full circle. Because people always ask me if I regret decisions I've made, because I think normal people would. think normal people would.
Right.
And
I hear that. No, I hear that completely. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I regret hurting people, but I don't regret the way I had to learn, because I would not be who I am right now had I not done the things that I've done. And that person didn't know who they were. And they were trying so hard to figure that out that they lost themselves trying to be that person for everyone else. I actually remember I was like 18 years old. And my mom said, are any friends better than no friends? And I said, yes. Anybody was better than nobody, because I'd spent the first 18 years feeling like I had nobody.
Right.
And this is messed up too, but I used to think back then, because I always didn't hang out with the best people, make the best choices, but I used to think that they had it worse than I did growing up. If I could just, if I could just be that light, right? If I could just be that hope, if I could just be these things, maybe I could help them too, because nobody could help me, but it's my opportunity that I could help somebody else. I didn't help people. I mean, I probably did, but I lost myself more than I helped anything. You succumb, like we said, like with energy, you succumb, and you will succumb to the lower vibration of energy every time. If you entertain it long enough,
Yep.
it's like treading water. Your legs are going to get tired. Your arms are eventually going to give out, and you're going to fall. And I think that's it for me.
Yep.
That was that shift.
Absolutely.
Was how many times I drowned in the water because I needed to sacrifice myself for everybody else. In the name of truth, in the name of strength, in the name
Absolutely.
of whatever, I needed to be that martyr until I didn't.
Absolutely. I can't. Starved muse fell out. It feels to me like that was your knowing what you know now about what you do about helping people heal and understand, and looking back, it feels like that was your first experience with it, or at least like your soul back then was trying to tell you, hey, you're about to go through some stuff, but it has a purpose, because you're going to come back here to where you're wanting to do the same thing, help people heal from what you've gone. But it's almost like there was an exchange. You were like, okay, I need to learn from this shadow so I know what to do when I experience this scenario again. What do you feel like that shadow was that for a time either redirected you away from or kind of blocked you realizing that's what you were meant to do?
I think for the longest time,
you always knew, but like,
I think for the longest time, I fought versions of me that people would resurrect that didn't really exist anymore. And I spent so much time and effort and energy defending versions of me that didn't exist, only to realize the only reason people resurrected them is because that's the version of me they liked, or they had the most control over, or the version that fit their narrative. And that's why I said for a very long time, I thought I had to defend something I wasn't, until I realized I could never become or be. I want to say I couldn't even be who I said I was if I'm busy reliving versions of myself that I'm not. And I spent so much time doing it. And that's why I think I said it in the beginning, but it's like, I went to therapy. I actually got kicked out of therapy. I would like everybody to know I got kicked out. Not kicked out, but I went to therapy. And after like 2 years, my therapist is like, you don't need to come back anymore. And I'm like, but I want to. And I'm like, I like this. I like not being silent. I like letting it out. I got told I couldn't come back anymore because I had the coping skills. And I'm just like, what? Like, it just like broke my logical mind that I spent years self-destructing. And now I'm here voluntarily. I'm not here because it's court ordered or it's probation or it's whatever. I'm here because I want to be. I like me right now. And you tell me I can't come back.
Right.
And I think in that, like, I want to call it like a bridge. It was like a bridging period. It's like I kind of just stood in the middle of the bridge where it's like, it's a compliment for somebody to go, you don't really need me anymore. Like, I'm just a crutch. And I'm like, but I don't see you as a crutch. I see you as neutral. I see you as somewhere I can come, that you've helped me facilitate safety and security. And I like myself. And I think that was the scariest thing to ever say, is that I liked myself after avidly hating myself and at times not even caring if I saw another day. I actually liked myself. And to think that I had to get to that point only to be told, like, basically, you're not welcome here anymore, because that's what, like, inside me hurt. You can't sit with us. And I'm like,
Right.
well, no, I'm actually leaving.
Right.
I don't care where you're going. But in that moment, it almost triggered it all over again. Like, you're strong enough. You don't need to come here anymore. Okay, but I don't want to be strong. I want to be the girl who comes here and just gets to be. I want to be the girl who just gets to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Now I have to be strong again, because you just told me I have the skills. I have my armor. I have my backpack. I have my tools. Go. And then it was all like, so now what? And then I kind of sat in that limbo. And then I kind of lost myself again, and not in the same ways, not in the same self-destructive ways, but again in who I had to be. I want to say who I had to be. I just shared a piece of it earlier, but my daughter was really sick when she was born, to the point that, like, she couldn't go to daycare. She actually had a feeding tube placed at 4 months old. We spent a lot of time in the hospital. She almost died at 2 years old. I had a boss at the time, and I say this nicely, but not really, who was willing to work with me, but it was only because I was good at my job. I did not like my job, but I was good at my job. It was means to an end, and I needed that job. Needed that job to take care of my babies, right? But it was also in that moment, like, I started betraying myself again.
Right.
I would sit there and I'm like, well, you have to be strong. You have to do this. You have to hate your life. And I mean, I got to bring my kid to work with me, and everybody's like, that's so great. No, it's not. This is how much I am not valued. This is how much I'm needed again. I am needed here, that people are bending over backwards to accommodate. And you are telling me I need to say thank you. And it's not because they appreciate me. They need me. They need me.
Right.
And I did that for 8 years. And then one day I woke up and I said I was done. Done. I'm putting it down. I'm not doing this. I went in. I wrote my letter of resignation. My boss looked at me like I lost my mind. Well, what are you going to do? I don't know. Not this. Not this. And I was like, I have literally traded myself again. I put myself back on the chopping block, the board, the chess game, and I maneuvered my pieces because I had to. Here I am having to be the strong one again. Here I am with all my tools equipped to handle this. And I used to hate it every day. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how I do it either, but here I am. Here I am. I don't want to just put one foot in the other. And that was when I crossed the bridge. That was when I said, I don't have to do this anymore. I don't have to go through the motions. I don't have to use the tools that everybody says I have to survive and climb up the mountain. I don't have to climb the mountain anymore. I can just walk around it.
Right.
And I think that was it for me. I always thought I had to go up it. I had to scale it. I had to get all my tools out, and we had to make it to the top. Blood, sweat, and tears. And we do it by ourselves, and we do it in silence, and we don't complain because, people appreciate you. No. They appreciate what you do for them. And I found myself with grown adults doing the same thing where I lost myself before. And I'm like, what is happening? That is my own cycle. That is my own pattern. It's not them. They're just bringing it back to me. You did all of this. You thought you shifted. Do you still like who you are? That was the cracking in the bridge. So do you still like who you are? No, I don't. I hate who I am. I hate getting up every day and coming here. I hate that I have to go through the motions. I hate that I just have to suck it up and smile and be grateful. And it wasn't that I wasn't grateful, but I wasn't grateful for bare minimum. I wasn't grateful for I need you more than you need me, but we're going to dress it up in a different way. And I didn't want to be that person either. And I walked away overnight. I literally just walked away. I put it down. People thought I was crazy. I probably was. But I did. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And then we got here. Now, not here today, but like here, like 2.5, 3 years ago. Where I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's just time to talk. Maybe it's just time to share, which I also find funny because I've shared this on my lives before, but I've told people I withdrew from my oral comm class in college because I was terrified to speak in front of people. And so when people see me now, I'm like, you have no idea that this used to terrify me. I actually withdrew from my class because it was scarier to have to give my speech than it was to just withdraw and bow out. And so now I like who I am again.
Right.
With nobody's approval. I don't even want to say with tools. I think I left the tool bag somewhere. Because I don't think I need tools, because tools is what I use to craft my mask. And every time I think about that, that's what I thought of. Every time they told me I had the tool, every time they told me I had the coping skills, I always picture like a little chisel and a hammer. And I'm like, great, I'm the strong one again. And I get to chisel my strong mask.
Yeah.
I don't want the tools. I just want to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a good way to look at it. The tools build the mask, because when you know you have tools, you're like, okay, when this happens, I'll take myself out of the moment, do my routine, play the role, give them what they want to see, and then I'll keep going. And that's recrafting that mask. That's absolutely it. You can't have tools for situations that you didn't experience yet. You can have discernment, you can have the wisdom, but you can't have a template of how to handle it. You've never experienced it, not with the awareness and the knowledge that you have in the moment.
Yes.
Oh, the scar of the wounded warrior.
And the blueprint is proven again.
Wrap it up. Burned out from battles you didn't choose. This wound forms when you've spent your strength surviving what was never yours to carry. Constantly in fight mode, you may feel exhausted, guarded, or numb, haunted by the need to stay strong. I'm not making it up. I promise. It can leave you wondering who you are without the war and aching. I promise it says this. Who you are without the war and aching for rest that feels truly safe. All right.
You know what? I don't think people understand what it means to rest after you put down the mask of the fighter. It's not a month.
Right.
It's not a day.
Right.
It's not a week. And I mean that, like, when I say I burn everything to the ground, like, really fast. A couple years ago, I quit my job. I decided to homeschool my kids. I just left everything. And everybody thought I was insane. And I have never been at more peace in my entire life, but I found myself literally sitting more than I have ever sat in my life. And not out of like physical exhaustion, but because I never thought it was okay to sit down. I thought I always had to do something. I thought that if I didn't get my to-do list done and all the boxes were checked, I was lazy, I wasn't productive, I didn't get enough done, I didn't do the things. I gave myself permission to sit, and it was only when I sat that I could actually feel my nervous system fighting my knowing. I could actually feel it. Where it's like, get up. You know what I'm saying? It's like where you sit and you're like, no, get up. And like you can feel the old and the old masks almost echoing on their way out. And I think that's what trips people up sometimes. An echo comes from a source, and it's you. So just because you put it down or you get further away from it doesn't mean you won't still hear the echo. But I think people run from the echo, because I did for a long time, because I somehow thought it meant I was slipping back into the past or an old experience, not realizing that it's that version coming forward to give you the wisdom because you're finally ready to hear it, because you're actually not in fight or flight anymore. But then you kick it back on when you run because you think you're repeating the pattern rather than it actually being the collapsing point. And that's what it was for me.
Right.
It took me like linear time. It took me like a couple years to actually give my nervous system a new experience. And every time it would try to tell me something that wasn't true. And that's how I want to say that. It tells you the things that aren't true. You're lazy. You need to get up. You're not doing enough. You need to do this. What if they think that? I would spend time cutting it off. I would spend time interrupting it. Because otherwise I would pick it back up. I would pick back up being the fighter. I would pick back up being the strong one. And I didn't want to do that anymore. But I think that was it for me, was I didn't have to be the warrior all the time. But I liked being the warrior. There was a part of me that liked being the warrior. And I had to understand why I liked it before I could put it down. And I think that's like a cracking point, not just for me, but I think for other people, when you can sit in the silence and ask yourself why you like it. And the thing is, when I say why you like it, maybe I shouldn't say like it. Why do you keep seeking it out, or why do you prefer it? Because the thing is, like, our nervous system will seek out what it knows. It's not that you actually like it. It just prefers it because it's habit. It knows how to deal with it. Like I said, your tools come in handy. It likes it because it feels purpose. And that was it. My fighter mask, my bury your pain and make it your fight, was this weird definition of my purpose. If I'm not fighting for everybody else, who am I? And I like being the fighter because people like me when I'm the fighter. People didn't like me when I was the self-destroyer. People didn't like me when I fought myself to the point that I'm bloody and bleeding and scars and this and that, all screaming for help. But you like me when I fight for you. So I had to go back and find that version. Yeah. And realize we don't like this. But that's why you can't intellectualize it. And I used to do that. I used to intellectualize, well, you're just doing this because of this. You can't tell those other versions of you. You can't intellectualize with them because you're not letting them feel. You're doing the same thing to them that you claim that you're healing from. You claim you need to heal from the gaslighting of your parents. You are gaslighting all the previous versions of you every single time you try to make logic with them, or you intellectualize as this version of you. You're not letting them feel. You're not letting them give you the wisdom. And that's it. If people could realize that the scars and the wounds carry the wisdom, they don't come back to haunt you. They come back to show you. You just have to be willing to listen, but you have to figure out why you're running from them in the first place, because that's why they're chasing you.
Right. Absolutely. That was good. That was really good. Yeah.
I'll never be able to.
I don't even have anything to add. That was, yeah. We'll have to record it because that will be clipped out. I will put that part everywhere. Okay. 8 of Pentacles. What did the invitation say to you in terms of if you're going to get from where you're at to this point of next, right? You need to stay committed to this mindset. This needs to be the mindset that no matter what is thrown at it, it will not waver. If you waver on this, go back to the beginning and restart, that type of thing.
You have to live for you. You have to stop living for everybody else just because it feels good, or you feel needed, or it gives you a purpose, because you're never going to step into the purpose while you're still living for everybody else. And I think that the hardest thing for me with that was that I had found a lot of my purpose in places I never wanted to find purpose. I never wanted to find purpose. This is going to sound bad. I never wanted to find purpose in advocating for a sick child just to live. I don't wish that on anybody. And that's why I'm saying that carefully, because I don't want that to come out the wrong way. I would advocate for my kids to let cows come home. But that became my purpose for a really long time. And I lost myself in that process because it's all I knew. And I think that was a big piece of, I think when people hand you the title of parent, especially for moms, you feel guilty when you try to untether from the identity that is mom, because you're more than just that.
Yes.
And I made that all of me that again, I lost myself again. It was all of me because this is what needed me. Not good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
But that invitation was, you have to live for you too. Because every time, and I say this in the best of ways, every time I live for somebody else, it does get better. And that's how I want to say that. It gets better. Whatever we're fighting against, we're battling, like it gets better. And then who am I again? Do I have to look for the next fight? Do I have to look for the next cause? Do I have to look for the next, do I have to be, who am I going to be the next ear for, the next shoulder for? I need to be that for myself. So for me, that invitation was, you will continue, like we will keep bringing you back to the start line every time you forget that you have to live for yourself. Because when you live for yourself, you're already doing all of the things. You just convinced yourself that you had to do it outside of you first. And I had to I had to flip that. I thought I would only find it if I did the things, instead of stop trying to do all the things and then it would emerge. So that's something I always have to, I remind myself all the time. Like even at the end of the day, I'm always like, how did I live for me today? What did I do for me today? And that's the thing. I think so often I used to think, oh, people are like, well, you have to take a day for yourself, or this. That was too big. It was too big that I ran from it. It wasn't plausible on my plate, right? So it was like an all or nothing. If I can't go all in, we can't just stick our toe in the water. But it was okay to just stick our toe in the water. Mm-hmm. It's okay if it's just 5 minutes. But it's that black and white thinking of that. It's that fight or flight. It's that nervous system. It's, you've got to compartmentalize. You've got to identify. It's got to be this way. It was control. And that was it. I couldn't be, while I was so busy trying to control everything outside of me, and the versions I needed to be, and the ways I needed to show up, and the things that I needed to do that I wasn't ever actually being for myself. I just got comfortable being who I was for everybody else. And this time it was a little better because I didn't lose myself fully, but I still wasn't being or living for me. Mm-hmm. But now I am. And I think people think that looks like crazy. You know what I mean? Like it has to be grandiose or something, and it doesn't.
Right.
It's like the not rush.
So, yes, absolutely.
Like, and I don't mean time.
So there's you on the outside. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and not like time, like it's that not rushing. It's that like when you wake up, it's not like you set the timer and you have to be out the door at this time. It's like, I can just be. And I have crafted out that time now where it doesn't matter if it's 15 minutes, an hour. I just sit. And I know you said it earlier in the intro, but like silence, that's when it talks to you. And that's when you can listen. Right. And that by itself is how I live for me every day, because I ran from the silence for so long I couldn't hear it. And now it doesn't scare me. And it speaks in volumes.
Right. So the silence, let's put it this way. It was very loud, and you learned to turn the dial down to silent that was comfortable, that could also produce connection and wisdom. So it's like silence that you're not alone in, right? Judgment, 8 of Wands in reverse, 7 of Wands in reverse. The decision that you made to slow down and be vulnerable, there was almost this convincing of a specific self-limiting belief. Like, if I'm going to sit in silence, this one self-limiting belief is going to try and pull me out every single time. What is that self-limiting belief? Or what is the shadow around that self-limiting belief?
It's okay to say no without explaining yourself. It's okay to say no without explaining yourself. Because that was it for me. I would always explain myself and think that if I prioritized myself in any way, and had to say no to someone or something else, that I caused a problem, that it was this, that I wasn't showing up for people. It was that pattern. And so it was that no is a complete sentence.
Right.
And I'm good at that.
Right.
I'm real good at that. And probably to the point people don't like me because I'm so good at it now, because I used to say yes to everything. Even when I hated it, even when I didn't want it, even when it felt wrong, because I thought I had to. And that was it. It's okay to say no. I don't have to rush and do this. I don't have to stop what I'm doing. And learning to say no was really hard. And not just to other people. It was hard to say no to myself because it started there. And that's what I don't think a lot of people get. They think that like your boundaries are for other people and they're for you. And they start for you because you're still entertaining things you're not meant to entertain. And that's the only reason you have to have boundaries in the first place. So if I have to have boundaries with myself, it's because I still have echoes that are coming through that I'm like, nope, we're not doing that today. Like, no, you don't need to get up. Nope, you can sit down. No, you can cry if you need to. Stop walking out of the room. It's little things like that. It was like, even in the silence, sometimes like tears come. Well, not a big crier, but yes, I am. That's a lie. But I am, but I'm not. I always thought that like crying is a sign of weakness, and we don't do that. And if we do it in public. We don't do it when people are around. Yes. And as a mom, I never wanted my kids to see me cry. Happy tears were okay, but like not sad tears. And now it's different. Right. Those are part of the no's. Like, no, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel. Because you spend so much of your time not feeling. I don't want to teach my kids not to feel. And that was the biggest. So that's when I say a lot of it was telling myself no, pulling myself out of all of the things that I used to do to make everybody else comfortable while making myself scream on the inside. And that's why silence was scary, because in silence was the screams, because I ignored it for so long. But then when I sat with it, there was no screams. There was only whispers. And I couldn't figure it out for a while. I'm like, why is it so quiet? Because I'm not ignoring it, and it doesn't need to scream at me. It only screams at me when I'm ignoring it. It only gets loud when I run from it. And so I think with that invitation, it was reminding myself that you're going to have to say no. Not to everybody else, but to yourself. Because if you cannot learn to say no to yourself, you will never say no to other people. And that's the thing. It's like, and I don't even call it, my quiet isn't like necessarily, I don't want to call it meditation, because that's not it. It's just awareness. It's just that awareness. And it's letting myself look at all of it and just feel whatever I need to. And I think that has been was the hardest thing for me. The hardest permission slip was when you've taught yourself how not to feel fully. It is overwhelming to feel yourself take up that much space, to feel yourself in wholeness when you have literally spent your life constricting and restricting how you express yourself. So to feel yourself in fullness can be overwhelming. And not in a bad way, just in a like, oh my God, like this is what wholeness feels like. And then it almost like brings me back to that full circle, like, oh my God, I'm the problem. It's me again. So like it was always here. I was always whole, like, and I was the whole problem. And I think part of that no being a complete sentence was you get to take up this much space and you get to do it without apologizing. If they're uncomfortable, who cares? And it was, if you're going to live for you, you're going to have to get really comfortable with truly not caring what other people think. Because for me, I cared. I'm not going to lie, I cared. I don't care now, but I cared for most of my life. I cared. I cared what people thought. I cared how I was received. And that's the thing. I was so busy caring about how I was received by others that I wasn't really receiving myself. I wasn't willing to receive what all of the versions of me had to say. because I was so busy worrying how I was going to be, if I was digestible to somebody else, if I was making them uncomfortable, if the way my light shined or the space I took up made them feel less than, because that was never my intention, right? But that was still people pleasing. That was still a no for me. So if I'm going to sit in the space where I'm whole, I want to emerge from the space whole. And that was that permission slip. Was you don't get to separate it again. You don't get to come and have your time and be whole, and then we're not going to operate in wholeness when we emerge.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I can't.
The wound of the shapeshifter's curse. Losing self through constant adapting. This wound forms when you learn to survive by becoming who others need you to be. Skilled at blending in, you read the room before you feel yourself. It can leave you disconnected from your truth, unsure of your identity, and exhausted from performing roles that were never truly yours. I guess we don't have anything to add over here because we're just repeating what you just said.
I just love this so much, though. Every single card, every blueprint confirmation, like this is it. You can't make this up.
Right.
You just can't.
Right. I had a feeling this was going to happen, being that your name is literally Keys of Wisdom 369. I'm like, no, she's just going to talk, and then the card's going to be like, yeah, this is what she said.
Oh, like fist bump.
So that being said, this mask, this mask here, it's almost like you had to also mask yourself from yourself so that you could allow yourself to put the mask on that you needed for others. So that being said, 5 of Swords, geez Louise, 5 of Swords, 4 of Pentacles, 8 of Swords. The fight that held you in a trap. That mask that you had to convince yourself to wear so that you could be who you needed to be to survive. What was that conversation like? Like you were like, okay, no, you are blah, like blank, so that you can be blank.
I don't know that I had a specific one. That's what's wild. I literally feel like I had my little backpack and I would just pull out whichever one that I needed. And I think that when I say this, like each one would be chosen based on what I thought I stood to lose if I didn't pick it back up. What is this going to cost me?
Oh, that's
what I would ask myself. What is this going to cost me if I just say this? If I don't water it down? If I don't find a softer way? What will this cost me if I come in too much? What will this cost me if I ruffle too many feathers? And then I would pick my mask accordingly. Or I don't even want to call it a mask sometimes. I would turn down the volume. That's how I want to say that. When I stopped kind of picking up as many, I just turned down the volume. I'd be like, okay, we'll just polish you up a little bit today. We won't be as raw around the edges because your rawness pisses people off. Like your unfiltered self makes tsunamis, is where if we polish you up a little bit, you'll just make like some waves. And that was it. But I was always asking myself what I was going to lose. And when you said but masking myself from myself, realizing that I was still willing to barter and to lose a part of me finally became non-negotiable. Because when I would turn the volume down or pick up the mask, I'm like, I'm okay with putting you on the shelf today. I am okay with telling you that you don't matter because they matter more. Their comfortability is more important than you getting to step forward today. Until it wasn't. And that's why I said I don't even want to say like I had like some great grand big moment. Well, I did. I told you I had the blow up in the front yard. But like after that, I really did not pick a mask back up again. I've really been that person that's like, I'm not losing myself anymore. And I don't know why it took that moment to just collapse it all. Because I sit back and go, my God. And I think about it all the time, but like when I reflect on it, I just think about how it was that easy. That's what does it in my logical brain. My logical brain goes, it was just that easy. I was so worried this whole time about how I was received. And then you went and did the most unhinged thing you could do and you feel better. Like, what have you been doing your entire life? And that's why it's like in that moment, like the people that I love and cared about the most saw me in the most unhinged way ever. And like, I never felt better about myself. And that's when I'm like, I don't have to turn down the volume. But I also realize that I'm not meant to be heard by everybody either. So sometimes not turning down your volume means knowing where your energy is reciprocated and where it's not. And that's nobody else's fault but yours if you choose to like invest your energy, because your energy is your currency. It's not money. It's not material things. You choose to keep investing your energy there. You need to ask yourself why. They're not the vampires. They're not sucking you dry. No, you are bleeding yourself dry. And it's you. And you're the problem. But you're also the solution. But that's part of it for me is I feel like I threw the masks. I really did. I feel like I threw them in the fire because they're not needed. It's just knowing when and who, and I say this carefully, when and who in my personal life can receive my energy. And if I know you can't receive it, then I don't need to be around you. And some may think that sounds egotistical, but to me, that's if I go around you, I know what's going to happen. And I value this enough that you can't handle this right now. And that's okay. I'm going to meet you where you are, but not at the expense and sacrifice of myself. So I think for me, that's where the crumblings of the mask and no longer turning down the volume happened, because it wasn't just one. It's like I swapped. That's why I said I swapped the mask for we'll just turn the volume down.
Right.
And now we just don't need to do any of that.
There's a quote that you made me think of. It says, boundaries are the space that allows me to love myself and you at the same time. It's like you learned that. You learned that the boundaries aren't just showing that, okay, look, there's no boundaries. It proves I love you. I'll let you walk all over me. It's like, no, like I love you enough to love me too, because I know that that's the best way I can love you. I think that's a big part of your non-negotiable.
When you say boundaries for some, or how, boundaries allow you to love other people as well as yourself, sometimes I sit there and I think about how, I would create this boundary because, betrayal or distrust or blah, blah, blah. And it was really because I was afraid I would betray myself again, or I didn't fully trust myself to do what I needed to do. And the second I could put my boundaries down was every time I chose to say yes to myself instead of no to myself. And it just kind of like collapsed it, because it goes back to that, like, you don't need, no needs no explanation. No is a complete sentence. And sometimes no is not a word. Right. Sometimes no is not answering your phone. Sometimes no is do not disturb. Sometimes no is not answering your door. Sometimes no is not making yourself readily available. Sometimes no is never spoken.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So the next three cards, you're non-negotiable. What would be three three sentences in your non-negotiable based off of these cards? Oh my God. 10 of Swords.
Sure. You can put that down whenever you're ready. You can put that down whenever you're ready.
Yes. Yeah. High Priestess. Man.
I think with the high priestess, that takes me back to your past isn't chasing you. It's the wisdom you're ready to hear. Stop running.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's already over. And that's what it was for me. It's already over. I'm running from the wisdom. I'm not running from my past. I can't change it. It's already done.
Absolutely.
And there's something to be gathered in every experience. And they're all neutral until we give them meaning. And I think that's what's different for me where I sit with myself, is where if I look at my experience through the lens of someone else, I miss the wisdom. But when I look at it through my own lens, it's crystal clear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's this exactly. You realize the pain was meant to teach you something and you couldn't run from it. You had to face it. There was a wall here. 9 of Pentacles in reverse. Take this in the direction of a breaking of a codependent mindset. Something you thought you needed that you realized you didn't.
I didn't need anybody else's approval but mine. And the reason I say that is because I looked at that card and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But it's literally that. Because it is. Because like it's the return to your own abundance. It's your return to your own approval. It's your return on investment. But if you can't invest in yourself because you're so busy investing in everything outside of you, you never operate in wholeness because you're so busy giving it away. So to me, I literally, like, I look at that in that spread and I'm like, because I did those things, I finally got the return on investment because it brought me back.
Yes.
We get so busy investing in everybody else that it's only in the silence that we invest in ourselves. And it's only when we stop running and sit down that the wisdoms emerge to be heard and shared.
Right. Absolutely. It's like the pain gives you an option. Are you going to focus on avoiding it by not looking within, or are you going to allow yourself to sit here? She's literally sitting. It's exactly what you're explaining right now. So sitting with this, right? I'm going to pull one card for this side, one card for this side, and then I'll pull one to go with this. These pillars, you're sitting in this seat and you're like, okay, got to integrate this wisdom. This is uncomfortable and painful, but got to do it. Can't really get up until I do it. And you're like, okay, oh, there's a picture on the wall over there. Oh, there's a picture on the wall over there. Knight of Cups in reverse on one side, the Ace of Pentacles on the other. Oh, there's a scene of my life where I needed to not love myself to learn how important it was to love myself. And here's the opportunity that can come from it.
Okay. I don't think I saw the opportunity in it at the time. But it's been a long time, but back about 20 years ago when I made bad choices, I had to prioritize some things with my oldest. And I had to make some sacrifices and some decisions that I preferred not, but they were the right thing to do. And I didn't see the purpose in that moment, except it takes me back to what I said in the beginning, where I thought it was a consequence of my actions that I had to carry forever, only for me to find out years later that it would all work out. that reunion would happen, that things would come back together, that no matter what narratives were spun, they all collapsed. But in that moment, in that initial decision, I didn't want to go on after that. Yet somehow, there were other plans for me. And I say that because I avidly tried. To not see another day, only to find out why. And so when I see that, it's like, I see that and it's almost like nothing can stand in the way of what's meant to be. And no matter who tries to stand in the way, no matter what they try to say about you, one moment of your life does not, in fact, define every moment of your life unless you let it.
Absolutely.
And for me, it's with
Absolutely.
it's that when you put it down, because that was my problem. I let a version of me that someone else created be what I spent so much time defending, only to realize that nothing they said would ever matter the second I stopped believing what they said was true. It needed me to sustain.
Absolutely.
Needed my belief in it to sustain it. And the second I stopped believing it, it collapsed. And then something else emerged. The reconnection, the reunion, you know what I mean? The relationship, that mother and son bond that cannot be broken no matter who tries to break it. And it was one of those, I thought I had to defend something that I didn't. And the person I had to fight in the process is never somebody you should have to fight. And I think that's where the fighter in me got renewed almost to the point of destruction until I stopped. I woke up one day and I said, I'm not fighting this fight anymore. And not in the sense of, and this is what made it hard, not in the sense that I don't love, I don't want, I don't wish things could be different, but in the sense of I'm putting this down because I don't have to defend this version of me for you to continue to pull the rug out from under me every time I prove that I'm not that person anymore. I haven't been that person for a long time. I had been that person since I reemerged from my consequences. But people can't handle that. And I think I couldn't handle it for a while because I got so used to, at that point in time, being the disappointment, being the one who messes up, being the one who, she got a chance and she screwed it up again, only to not do that, to actually learn, to actually integrate, right? To realize, like, I don't have to shame myself. I did what I did and, like, we're over it. But people don't like it when you don't shame yourself anymore. People don't like it when you don't guilt trip yourself anymore. They don't like when you won't resurrect those versions of yourself anymore. And that was it for me. That was I keep fighting, trying to prove who I'm not, instead of realizing that I'm the proof that I'm not. So we try to prove something so hard.
Yeah.
Not a version, not realizing we are already standing outside the box. The box is the illusion. They need your belief in it. They need you to believe in it to keep it existing. And then you just stop and you're like, I'm already on the outside of the box. Like, it's that moment of, like, it just hits you. And you're like, so I'm outside the box and I'm not that. And I'm arguing that I'm not that while I'm standing outside the box. And now I'm just done. And it's like,
Absolutely.
You aren't keeping it alive anymore. And the second you stop keeping it alive, the narratives, the obstacles, the challenges, I want to call it the opposition, the tug of war, it stops. Who's going to be playing tug of war with if you're not playing? What happens when you stop playing? And for me, that was the Ace of Pentacles. That was the new beginning. That was I don't have to play tug of war between proving who I'm not while I'm already the proof that I'm not. And that was it.
Yes.
Because that's the tug of that most people don't see. You're trying to prove that you aren't this while you're already the proof over here and you're arguing with yourselves. And it's not anybody else because you can't control what anybody else says about you. You can't control anything. So why are you trying to prove what you are already the walking, living proof of? Yeah. That also begs to question, if you're still proving, then what part of your truth don't you really stand in?
Right. Yeah. I don't even have anything to add to that. That needs to be in some kind of magazine or something. Tell me when to stop. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
The wound of the hungry root, seeking depth in shallow ground. This wound forms when your longing for connection, meaning, or truth is met with emptiness or surface level bonds. You reach deeper, but there's nothing solid to hold. It can leave you feeling starved for intimacy, spiritually restless, and unsure if what you seek even exists. You had to find the soil to plant yourself in so that you could be that healthy sprouting of a plant. So that being said, that soil that you found to plant in, why do I have 4 piles here? 10 of Cups in reverse, Knight of Swords in reverse. Move this over. 6 of Pentacles in reverse. This is something that there's a certain way that you were taught to handle things. That was the best way that the person who taught you knew how to do it. But you had to recognize that there was another way and that way was never going to work for you.
Yep.
Yep.
I want to say that it's that you speak up and you stand up for what you think is right until you make other people uncomfortable, and then you shut your mouth. And that's what was it for me.
Yep.
It didn't matter what it was, but that's how I was raised. You're supposed to stand up for things. You're supposed to speak your truth, but only as long as you don't make other people uncomfortable. And I did that for most of my life, for a very long part of my life, until I realized it's never going to work. Like you said, it doesn't work this way. You can't stand in your truth. You cannot be grounded and rooted in your truth while watering yourself down. And that was it.
Right.
I was always watering myself down. I was always dimming the candle or even attempting to blow it out, because I would say things. This is the irking part that will always irk me when somebody used to say this to me. It was always that I didn't say things. I said things in a very respectful way, or I would say things in a way that didn't mean to ruffle feathers, but I did inadvertently. So it was like, well, you're being respectful, but you're being this, but there was always the but. So I'm like, so I'm really not doing anything wrong. Right. You just don't like what I'm saying. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not being rude. I'm not coming at you sideways. You just can't handle the weight of my truth, and you are uncomfortable. So now I need to turn that down. And I think I took that, and I just remember this situation. I remember this situation sitting in an IEP meeting. And I was on one side and my mom was there and this and that. And I was asked to be there. I was asked to be there for actually more from an advocacy standpoint, not just because it was my kid, but as almost I want to say an expert weighing in on something. So we're sitting there. And I just remember the topic, and I was just very direct. I'm a very direct person. And I was just like, but I don't understand. I'm like, legally binding, blah, 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 you know, all these things. Well, once I said legally binding, now I hurt people's feelings because I'm going to hold you accountable. And that's it. I was taught that I needed to be accountable my whole life. I needed to wear my scarlet letter. I needed consequences are something we carry forever. So now I'm going to hold other people accountable the same way I have held myself accountable. Oh, but now it's uncomfortable. And I remember being an adult, my grown mother, reprimanding me in a room of other adults. And I just looked at her and I said, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. You asked me to be here.
That's right.
And I said, and I'm not being rude or disrespectful. And I said, and I'm not going to change what I said just because other people are uncomfortable. And it was in that moment where it just kind of collapsed. And I got an apology after the fact. I didn't want an apology. That's the difference. I don't want the apology. Well, I shouldn't have done that. No, you're right. You shouldn't have. But I don't want your apology because that's just who you are. I made you uncomfortable because you wish you would have done that. That's not mine to hold. I used to hold that. That's the weight of all of the burdens that I didn't have to carry. I didn't have to carry. And the thing is, this is where I intellectualize it. As an adult, I understand my mom's trauma. I understand what she's been through. I understand why she is the way she is because I see what she runs from. Logical me can understand that.
Right.
All the other versions of me that had to deal with the flow of that, the ripple of that, don't understand. Right. So that's why I'm always like, I can't intellectualize my feelings because my feelings still matter. My feelings are still valid. But it was like in that moment where I'm like, it almost broke me. And I'm going to say that it almost broke me because it was in that moment that I realized that my mom competes with me. And I don't even think she knows she does. I think sometimes she's proud that I do the things that I do, which is absolutely a reflection of certain aspects of how I was raised. Because I tell her, I'm like, I was raised to speak up. I was raised to do this. But then at some point it came with restrictions. You only speak up before you make too many waves. You only speak up until you make the wrong people uncomfortable. You say thank you because they're helping you. They're giving the bare minimum of not saying thank you. And now you're proud of who I am, but I don't need you to be proud of me this time. I needed you to be proud of me before. I needed you to acknowledge something for me because those were the parts of me that were still seeking and chasing something. I don't need you to be proud of me. I don't need you to apologize. I don't need you to acknowledge who I've become because I know who I've become. And I think in that moment, that's why I said it almost broke me to realize I'm the version you wished you stepped into, but you're jealous.
Right.
Because of how I wield myself now and I don't bend. And I think like even today,
right,
that residual energy is still present. But with her, it's unconscious. It's a subconscious thing. And for me, I see too much.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like the hard part for me. I had to fertilize my own soil. I had to do all of this. And because I've learned how to do it and plant my own seeds and let them grow, do I appreciate a kind word? Yes. Does it make or break me anymore? No.
Right. It's like you learned that if you stay quiet, you don't have to apologize to other people, but you're going to have to apologize to yourself.
Yes. And not only that, I was taught that if we don't label things and we keep them quiet, we can pretend like they didn't happen. If we don't call something what it is, and we just leave it as the elephant in the room, and we put it in the box and we pretend like it's not there, we don't have to address it. We just won't call it anything, because the second we call it something, we're acknowledging its presence. And I spent most of my childhood that way. That is where trauma starts for me. We put it in the box. It is the elephant in the room. We all know it's there, but we're going to pretend like it's not. And in silence.
Absolutely.
That's, yes.
Absolutely. It's like they try to convince you to get in the box, and then when you won't get in the box, it's like, all right, well, now there's this elephant in the room of us trying to get you in the box, so we're going to put the elephant in the box, and then we're going to convince you to be grateful that the elephant's in there and not you.
Correct.
And it's like, no, that's not, I'm not grateful for that. That's not a thank you thing.
And it's almost like, to me, it's like the secrets that go in the box that aren't really secrets, and the weight of thinking that you have to carry other people's secrets because they can't face that reflection, and then realizing you don't have to carry that. I carried the weight of other people's secrets because I thought that was loyalty. I thought that was being a good person. I thought that made me trustworthy. And it's not that I would just go spread people's business, because that's just not who I am either. But carrying the weight of those things without just being like, you can put that down. That's not my secret, and I don't have to hold on to it. You can tell me it, but I don't have to internalize it. I don't have to keep carrying it every second of every day, because then it becomes my secret. Now we've woven the energy together, and it's not just yours, because I've consented to holding it. And the second I consented to holding it, I absorb it. Now I'm carrying your secret, but it's my secret. And now it's flowing and mending and becoming malleable in my own reality. I was never meant to hold your secret.
Right. Absolutely. So in that regard, you look down and you recognize that you're holding this basket, and it's full of all of these secrets and burdens of other people. Those are the other people. 2 of Cups, 2 of Swords, 10 of Wands in reverse. Okay, so you look down, carrying this basket, all this stuff in here, connected to all these other people. You're like, oh no, what do I do with this to put this burden down? What was that shift like? What was that like? Okay, almost like this, you feel like you're like other people are going to perceive that you're letting them down by putting this down. But like, again, it goes back to, are you going to not have to apologize to them, but have to apologize to yourself? Or are you going to like mark yourself as important enough to make those decisions for?
Yes. No, that makes perfect sense to me.
I'm glad that makes sense. I'm like, I don't know if I'm saying this right.
It really does. Because the thing with me is, when you matter to me, like when you have a space in my life, I still try to, if I still have to have boundaries with you, and that's the thing, I've tried to make it where people who have access to me now, I don't need to have boundaries. That's the way I want to say that. If I have to have boundaries with you, it's because you don't respect me in my wholeness. You don't respect what I tried to communicate. So I now have to spend my time, effort, and energy exerting things because you can't respect how I'm expressing myself. I mean, even in the simplest of ways, like, hey, I'm working from this time to this time. Please don't call my phone. Please don't this, right? I have no control over if anybody does that or not. However, I will put you on Do Not Disturb. I will not respond to a text. I will not call you back until after this time frame. But to me, it's sad if I've had to tell you this many times and you still do it. So I've gotten to this point where, and these are people I genuinely love and care about. And I've just gotten to this point where I'm like, again, I was the problem and the solution. I was the problem. My need to be nice overrode my need to have to keep apologizing to myself for being nice to everybody else, but not being nice to myself. Because that was it. I had no problem being nice and bending it to the point that I break, right? Snap in half to everybody else. But I had no problem telling myself no. No, you go sit down. No, not right now. No, we're not saying that. No, you can't do that. Not yet. It's not time. You have to do this, and this. I was the problem. It has always been me. And I think that accepting that responsibility for yourself to go, I've always been the problem, and I've always been the solution, and I've always been the key, and I've always been the gate, and I've always been the this, and I've always been the that. That's where you free yourself. Because I used to blame everybody else. And yes, when you carry the burdens, because the burdens are the blame. And it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. Because the thing is, it's easier to blame other people for how they treat us or this or that. And when we say, well, they made me feel, I had to own my shit there. Nobody's making me feel any kind of way. I decide what my feelings are. They're being them. And I'm allowing them a space in my life, and I'm allowing them access to me. Nobody makes me feel anything. I make myself feel it. And when I had to own that for myself, that was that balance. That was that, like, no longer being at an impasse, right? That's that where I blamed others. I need to shift that to self and not call it blame, but call it radical acceptance and responsibility. Because now that I'm owning myself and my energy, I don't have to carry their burdens. I don't have to tolerate this. I don't have to have these boundaries that actually bleed me dry. Because if your boundaries are still bleeding you dry, you need to ask yourself why. You have to ask yourself why. If you're constantly need to reassert your boundaries, then like, why do people even have access to you? And that was really hard for me. Because like I said in the beginning, silence was something I ran from. And other people's chaos was comfort. That's where I was needed. That's where there was the fight. That was where there was purpose. That's where all the things and all the ways that people hurt me, I got to prove quietly. And I think it was in those moments of fight or those moments of tug of war, that's where I felt I got to prove that I made it. Until I got tired of proving it. I don't need to prove anything. Right. And that was when I just put it all down. I chose to carry all of these. They didn't ask me to. And I think that's it. When and who told me I had to carry this? And the thing is, for all of the people that I blamed for something at one point in my life, did they actually ask me to carry it, or did I volunteer as tribute? Because if I volunteered as tribute, they don't have any blame. I volunteered as tribute. And then I chose to carry it until somebody else told me I could put it down. And then it came full circle and I realized I was that problem and that solution. But I volunteered as tribute.
Right. So the next 3 cards I'm going to flip over. Imagine your subconscious plays out these cards as a pattern.
Okay.
And these patterns are like kind of exactly what you just said. It's like these patterns that cause a misalignment, right? 4 of Wands, community. What was the misalignment in your belief about community?
I think the thing is that I always think I need to be the glue that holds everything together. When it comes to foundations, I always want to go back and reinforce it. And I'm always like, if I go back and reinforce it, I can find all the little cracks because I'll have my magnifying glass out. I'm going to find all of them. And the thing is, what I've learned now is when you think you're laying a foundation, it's usually going to get leveled. So don't get too attached. Don't get too attached to your foundation.
Yeah.
Because the second you attach to the foundation, you're putting yourself back in a box. And it took me a really long time to realize that, because I would get so excited about something else and building and like community and togetherness and connection, right? But everything's just meant to teach you something. Everything's meant to be an experience. And sometimes you evolve, shift, step, change, whatever, faster than your foundation can move with you. And sometimes it's not meant to move with you. And I think that's the thing. Some people don't realize, especially like when I look at tarot, this is just me. I look at that Four of Wands, but it's always going to be paired with the Tower at some point in time, because you're building this foundation, and at some point it's going to burn because you're no longer the version of you that built the foundation. And the thing is, sometimes the people that you meet and those connections that you forge, it's not that you're burning bridges or burning them down, but the version of you that formed that isn't who you are. You've evolved past it. And then the tower crumbles. And people always look at it as something bad. But that's what I've been learning this recently. You actually did a read for me because I won one of your giveaways, and it talked about 3 towers. And this like brings it full circle. Because that's it. Every tower.
I remember that. I remember that.
Okay. And I was like, it just took me this, because I wrote it in a notebook when I was listening.
I remember.
But that was it. I always used to think it was like this devastation and this destruction. And like, why would I, and I want to say lose people. And I don't necessarily mean lose people as in die or this or that, but like connections would just part, or there'd be a gap. I call it the gap because it's that gap in frequency. It's that when you shift and start tuning into something different, it's like that static starts, right? There's nothing wrong. It's not bad. You don't need to scan for threats. It's just a gap. And the thing is, then that bridge, so many people get stuck in the middle looking behind them because they think they're losing something, that the bridge was the transition and you're supposed to keep going. This is going to be uncomfortable. You've never been here. You're looking backwards because you can control it. But that's the thing. Like when I look at that foundations aren't always meant to be stable. They're meant to move with you, be leveled when needed. And that's the thing. I think I used to get too stuck in the need for stability and not realize that creating too strong of a foundation was laying the floor of another box.
Yeah. Absolutely. One that doesn't move with you.
Yes.
Absolutely. The moon. Illusions, secrets, the tides of emotions, whichever direction you want to go with that one.
I think that's, I take it with the Four of Wands. It's the illusion that nothing is forever.
Okay. I like that.
And that nothing is meant to be permanent or fixed. It's like we just said, it's meant to collapse and fold with you. And so I think that I realized that I had to stop defining who I was and just let myself be, because the illusion was I always had to put myself in some kind of a box. Like I even dislike it now because people will try to put me in a box and I'm like, it's no for me. And I'm always just like, no, your experience is yours and only you need to understand. I mean, but do you know, like that's like, I love to say that to people because I think that that's the beauty in our experiences. What you understand for you is beautiful and great. It's not right or it's not wrong. But don't tell me that I'm telling you this or that I need to be this, because I think I know what it was. This was the illusion. And this is somebody commented on a video of mine and was trying to place me in the box of being a healer. I don't want that. I'm not here to fix anybody. Right. I am not here to heal anybody. I am just here to be me. That made me like feel like fixer. I'm like, I need to do something. And they were like, you need to teach her. No. I just need to be. I need to be. And if you find me and something I say like resonates for you or it makes you think, then I love that for all of us. But other than that, I don't want that pressure. I don't want that title. I don't want the illusion that I have to build a foundation. Now this foundation becomes my identity. I want to be able to challenge the foundations that I build. And I think that that's it for me. I keep finding myself challenging foundations, and then there's a crumbling. And they're not bad. And that's the difference. I think I stopped labeling things as good and bad, because that was also the illusion that I had to assign some kind of dualistic meaning to something instead of just letting it be, because that's all it was. It was, this doesn't fit.
Right.
It's like it almost collapses in real time now, in the sense of my knowing pushes through the second the echo of a mask is picked up. And it's like, it's a no. It's like, just stop.
Yeah.
And I listen. And because I listen now, it's not this hamster wheel. It's not this hamster wheel on that foundation where I'm just running in circles, because I used to build something and then go, well, that's who I am now. I can build lots of things and I can level it as many times as I want. And I think you said it in your read to me months ago, you can pick up the roots and plant it in different soil as many times as you want to. And I just needed to give myself, I needed to hear that, right? Like sometimes we just need to hear it. We need to hear somebody remind us that we can give ourselves permission to change, to do this, to do that, and that it's not fixed. And just because you poured a lot of energy or effort or time or, life force into something doesn't mean it's bad, it didn't work, it didn't this, because you evolved. I still think there's that little bit of illusion that when things crumble, that you did something wrong, when really you just stepped into the next version of you and you're watching it in real time.
Absolutely. That gives me a visual of like walking through the woods.
I love how they're bringing all that stuff back right back. The roots, soil, the towers, the foundations, like
circle. Yep. Absolutely. It's literally coming full circle, like in front of our eyes. I'm like, oh, wow, we did have that conversation months ago. That gives me the visual of like walking along this path, and you're going to come across the old masks, because in these situations, typically you pick up that mask and put it on. You're still walking along this path where the mask is going to be there and you got to pick it up, but you're choosing to throw it instead of put it back on. And I think a lot of people get turned around because they're like, oh, there's that mask. It must be who I am. Let me put it back on and turn around. But you're like, no, that's in my way. Bye. And I'm going to keep going. And that's the shift.
I think it's in the moments that I want to say
that's the shift.
The echoes of the mask like reemerge. I've learned to pause long enough to remind them that we've already made it. And that's the only recognition that they needed. I had to learn to pause because I never acknowledged where I made it or what I actually came out of, because I was so focused on the next battle, the next obstacle, the next mountain, the next thing I had to prove I had faith about, that I never really acknowledged that we made it. So every single time those masks come out, I remind them that we made it, because they just want to be expressed. And sometimes that's why I always tell people, it's like, your shadow is not something to eradicate. It's a really important part of you. Those are the parts of you that taught you how to fight, how to get back up, how to persevere, how to pause, how to listen. But if you're so busy, never acknowledging that you made it, you never give them the honor that they deserve. So rather than look at the masks like something I need to run from, burn, and destroy, I honor them for what they taught me. And I remind them that we made it, and that they could, like, you did your part. Thank you. I don't need you today because we made it, but thank you.
Right.
And it's like in that moment, it just stopped.
Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Foundation crumbled. You faced the illusions. This is you now. Hey, you shadow in reverse. Give me the wisdom. Thank you for that. But you're going to stay right where you're at. You're not coming with me. Cutting you. Leaving you here with this illusion and this. A shadow that fell at the same time as this foundation. Like, oh, that was a shadow. Not my reality. Tell us about that.
I think the shadow that fell is I don't keep having to say yes for the comfort of other people. I don't have to stay in the places that I feel restricted in, where I feel like I can't be myself because there's some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm getting like sandpaper in my head, but do you know what I mean? Like, where there's that friction, where it's like the more I unapologetically become myself, I guess is the way I want to say it, the more unapologetically I express my energy, the more I realize not everybody can receive that part of me, and I'm okay with that. I am okay if you can't receive that part of me, but what I'm not okay with is negotiating that with myself. Like you said earlier, negotiating that I'm going to have to go apologize to myself later if I don't say this. I think that's the biggest crumbling of that shadow, is that I can say no to the people that I care about. I'm allowed to grow and evolve. I'm allowed to change my mind. And I think that was the hardest thing for me. I grew up in a way where, like, you're a hypocrite. No, I'm not. If you don't ever change your mind, you're stuck. If you don't ever change your mind, you're in a cage.
Right.
It's okay to change your mind, but other people not change theirs. And that's the difference, I think, for me, is where I used to have to feel like I had to defend why I changed my mind. I don't have to defend it. I'm okay now just not defending things. And that's how I know I've come full circle from when you had that like wounded warrior card out earlier and all of the other ones where it's like, I don't even want to defend myself. That's the difference. That's the part of my shadow that's like, you can rest. Like, you've been the ride or die for so long. Like, you're in retirement. I don't need defended. I love that you want to defend me, but I don't need defended anymore. We're good. And it's like in that moment that no matter what, that's why I watch foundations collapse. The second I stop defending myself. And I don't even want to. That's where I know I'm at this point with myself now that, like, we're good. Like, I'm good with me. Because it doesn't even come up like that anymore. It doesn't come up. And when I say come up, it used to come up and it gets stuck right there in the throat chakra. And then you'd swallow that, you know, that lump in your throat back down. That.
I know exactly.
It's like, 99% of the time you'll wield your power, except that one time, because it's that one person and you genuinely care about them and you genuinely this. So you swallow it back down. And that was you defending you to yourself, not anybody else. And then that's why I said I would have to go apologize to myself later. Right? I know we're not supposed to be like, so again, I'm the problem. But I don't want to defend myself anymore. And if I find myself in rooms with people that's something I'm going to have to do, I don't want to be there. I want to level the foundation. But leveling it doesn't come with a wrecking ball this time. It comes in walking away. It comes in not over-explaining. It comes in not defending. It comes in just putting it down and being done. And that's all. It doesn't need to be the wrecking ball anymore.
Right. So honest yes or no, and then I'm going to flip this card after your yes or no. Do you feel like a part of having the mother wound or a wound stemming from some rift in the relationship with the mother, do you feel like that wound comes with the subconscious belief that you need to convince and defend who you are before people will believe you?
Yes.
The wound of the fractured feminine. Softness confused with weakness. This wound arises when your tenderness, intuition, or emotional depth is dismissed, exploited, or shamed. You learn to hide your softness to be taken seriously or to stay safe. It can leave you feeling disconnected from your true power, unsure if your sensitivity is a gift or a threat. It's like you didn't have this clear reflection of yourself. The mirror was broken. So you viewed yourself as broken because you were given a broken mirror to look into.
Yes. I've never identified with a card so much in my life. I'm serious.
I can't wait for you to have this deck. I'm sending to you today.
When I see that card, like,
okay, so that being said, this is you.
I was gonna say, when I look at that card,
Go ahead.
see, like, my mom used to describe me as the soft, compliant, quiet kid. I was the kid who loved to learn. I was the kid who loved to read. I was the kid who loved school. I was never the problem. My sister was different. My sister was the boundary pusher, the tester of the waters, like all of the things, right? But not me. I was the quiet, soft kid. But I wasn't the quiet, soft kid because I wanted to be. I was the quiet, soft kid because I never felt safe. I was the quiet, soft kid that was afraid to use her voice because when I did, there was times I wasn't believed from a very, very, very young age. And that made me think that people wouldn't believe me. So I just learned to swallow my voice. And then when I would try to use my voice or communicate things, my mom wouldn't believe me. And it was just little things. But then the little things became the big things. And then when I got older, I then pushed all the boundaries. I went from the compliant kid to the like, oh, there's rules. Let's buck every single one of them. Oh, just opposites of the same energy, right? Same spectrum, same frequency, same energy. Here we're quiet, here we're loud. And both of them were cries for help. Both of them were expressions of energy that just wanted to be seen. And when being quiet didn't work and being loud didn't work, we fractured in even more pieces. Only to realize that some people can't hear you. That's what did it for me. When somebody told me that not everybody can hear you, and then broke it down to me, and then the way it came in my mind was like, everybody's a radio station and not everybody can pick up on everybody else. And the louder I screamed or the quieter I got, but more often the louder I screamed, whether it was through self-sabotage, self-betrayal, addiction, this, that, whatever it was, they couldn't hear me. They didn't relate. They didn't know. So I always fell on deaf ears. So I always thought I had to prove who I wasn't. I spent more time proving who I wasn't than being who I was. And the second I realized I didn't have to prove anymore and I could just be, that whole idea of being fractured brought it back to wholeness. It brought it back to the no longer like that house of mirrors where every version of me I'm looking at, I'm like, well, that's not it. That's not it either. And then eventually you found the clarity. You found the clear mirror because you found it in being and not in defending and not in proving and not in chasing. You found it in just being.
Right. So, okay, so this card, this is how that you were taught to look at this mirror, which was distorted because this mirror was the cracks from other people that they had not repaired. So obviously those cracks were going to be shown to you. You were told you got to look in this mirror. That's who you are. You finally recognize, oh, there's a mirror over here right behind me that's not cracked. But I got the experience of learning who I'm not so that when I see this reflection, I'm like, oh, that's me. That's me. Okay, so I'm going to flip over 2 rows of 3. I'll do one at a time twice. 1 sentence per card. This version of you bidding her farewell to this version that you realized was not an accurate reflection. Page of Cups in reverse. inner child.
Your voice always mattered, and it was always heard by the one who was meant to hear it most.
Knight of Pentacles.
It was never a race.
Diligence, building one step at a time, self-trust.
It was never a race. And you never had to make it to the finish line because there was never anything to finish.
Ace of Cups.
You were never too much. You just felt in your wholeness before someone told you not to.
Six of Wands.
Your fire was never meant to be extinguished. It just took a little while to return to it.
King of Pentacles in reverse.
You're not always going to have your footing, but each step unfolds with you.
Absolutely. Three of Wands in reverse.
Ooh. When you stopped trying to prove yourself to everyone else, you realized that you could rely on yourself the whole time.
Can somebody please look up if New Jersey just had an earthquake at 11:40? Because I kid you not, as soon as you said that, my entire office shook. I wonder if you can see that on camera. 11:41 a.m., 4:23:25. Was there an earthquake in New Jersey?
Oh my God.
Where's my... I think you just caused the earthquake. I hope you can see that on camera. My entire desk shook.
I know, I was like, what's 7?
Oh, that's okay. So that being said, plus the earthquake. You turned away from this mirror and faced the one that was a true reflection. You turned back and you realized that the mirror wasn't ever showing you, it was showing a shadow that you had convinced was you. What did that shadow look like as you glared over one more time before turning and facing the right mirror?
When I look back, I see I've always seen this figure that's covered with all of these scars, only to realize that the scars and the wounds I had been trying to heal, not all of them were mine to try to do so with. I took on the wounds of other people that were never mine to heal, and then kept telling myself that I was broken. So the version of me that I would see was never me. It was this distorted image of all the people that I felt I had to carry and heal because I claimed I didn't know how to do it for myself, when all I had to do was stop looking at my life through their lens When I looked through their lens, it was their wounds that I saw. So then when I would look at it, I didn't realize it was a distorted image. I would view it as myself because I was never looking through my lens or the right mirror. I was looking through theirs. So I was always this version that looked like I crawled over glass. That's how it looks like. It looks like I crawled over glass time and time again.
Right. It was like it was showing you your shadow that was birthed from all of these cracks that weren't you.
Yes. And when I say that, it's like when people's wounds, like their words, their actions, their this were projected, I absorbed that as mine. When it was the reflection of them, not the reflection of me.
Right.
The shunned leader.
I find this very interesting that this came out here. The wound of the shunned leader. Punished for rising before your time. It's like you started to, and they were like, nope, back down.
Back down there.
Back down. And that was the punishment. The punishment was keeping you from yourself. It was like Groundhog Day, but every time the groundhog tried to come out, they'd block the hole. And you're like, I'm just trying to tell you when the weather's going to be nicer. And they're like, nope, back in the hole.
Yes.
Punished for rising before your time. This wound forms when your natural leadership, vision, or voice threatens those not ready to receive it. You step forward and are met with resistance, envy, or exclusion. It can leave you doubting your authority, hiding your gifts, or fearing the cost of being seen too soon.
I know the first time that happened.
Yeah. Okay, so hold on. Tell us about that in the context of
that
Chariot, the Three of Swords, and the Ace of Wands all in your heart. Yeah? Okay, I'm not even going to ask a question.
The first time
I cannot wait to hear this.
My voice, like as an adolescent, was at this volleyball game. And I always look back and think about how some of the coaches that I had were probably some of the most abusive adults I've ever met in my life. But like we normalized that like back then, like that's just good coaching. No, it's not. And I remember like being degraded verbally on the court because we were losing or something. We ended up winning or whatever, but like that wasn't the point. I couldn't take it anymore. I snapped. And I started yelling back at the male coach on our team. And then when it was over, like when the game was over, he knew he messed up. And my mom used to sit in the bleachers and she used to kind of like sit away from people because she just liked to watch the games and not like interact. Well, he tried to go over there and talk to her. And she's like, you just need to get away from me. You just need to this. And in that moment, I'm like, you still can't defend me. I had to defend myself. You had every opportunity to stand beside me because I already did it. I already defended myself, not caring what the consequence was. And yet again, you chose to walk away. You had a moment where you could combine your torch with mine, and you threw yours on the ground. And yet again, you not only betrayed me, you betrayed yourself, because where I found my voice, you betrayed yours. And your answer was, don't talk to me. And it wasn't me. I'm like, she's like, well, I'm just not talking to you. And I'm like, so in child mind, it's okay for other adults to treat your kid that way. And I am on my own. I have to stand up for me. I had to find my voice. And all you had to do was merge with mine. That's why I said that's why I said you nailed it. It's that betrayal. I chose not to betray my voice that time. And she could have combined that torch with mine, But instead of finding her power or strength in numbers, she ran.
Right. And for those who aren't as familiar with tarot, the Chariot upright is two opposing forces working together. It's in reverse. The Ace of Wands is fire. This is literally the torch she's talking about, and it's in reverse. And this is a release of something. So when two forces could have came together, the torch was dropped.
Yes.
So that being said, in which ways, how do I word this? You had to pick up this torch and say, as hard as this gets, as much as people try to rip this out of my hand, I'm going to have to be the one to continue to carry this. Queen of Cups, Justice in reverse, King of Wands in reverse. There was one trigger that when you experienced at times, it made you want to be like, you know what? Torch, bye. But you didn't, because you mastered some emotion. Tell us about that.
It goes back to that crying being seen as weakness, because I always had to be in that fire. I always had to be the assertive, the strong, the fighter, the game face. But it's only when I could let myself feel and stop looking at my tears as something that deserved to be shamed or not shared. It was only in the moment that I realized, because my tears only used to come out when I was angry. I buried my tears for everything else. So if my tears came out, it was because I was so angry. I was crying. I was so mad. And it was in that moment that I realized that the anger and the tears were the parts of me that loved me the most, that I had to put down the need to be the fire all the time. And I had to let myself feel, because those were the parts of me that loved me the most, the parts that came forward in tears in this, because the weight of being strong and swallowing your words got so heavy, it cracked. So when I learned that the tears weren't to be shamed and that the tears were parts of me that loved me, I could put down the need to be in that masculine fire-proof, I need to defend, I need to command, I need to show you who I am all the time. Like, I'm going to take my anger, hear me roar type of thing. Sometimes more can be conveyed through tears and calm than it can through fire and shouting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I want to do something a little bit different here. Okay. Similar to the letter with yourself, right? To that version of you. If you were, I think I'm going to do like 3 rounds of this one. 1 card at a time, one sentence per card. Because of what you've experienced, what's one non-negotiable that you would recommend to everyone listening that's resonated with something in your story so far? Knight of Wands.
Know when to wield your fire. And when I say fire, I mean your voice. And know when it falls on deaf ears. Because not everybody deserves to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely. 6 of Cups in reverse.
Sometimes the things that appear to be falling apart are the things that will lead you to the biggest breakthroughs. If you are willing to let yourself feel instead of think.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The Sun in reverse. Oh, this one's gonna be good. No pressure.
Darkness is where the answers are found. It is where they have always been. But if you're afraid of the dark, you will never hear what's meant for you.
Absolutely. The star universe.
Your crown isn't given to you by someone else. It's something that you place on your own head.
I can't ignore this setup. Give me something for the star, the sun, both in reverse, surrounding the Six of Cups in reverse.
It's only when you stop pretending to be someone you're not that you step into who you're meant to be.
I knew those cards were laid out like that for a reason.
I'm like, it literally took me my video yesterday the second you said it.
Absolutely. Yep. It all
I never listen to any of my videos. I just post them and I literally have the volume off. So that's like the first time I heard it when it was on here. So I had no idea what I even said. And I'm like, oh yeah.
As soon as I heard that, I was like, this has to come on. This has to be part of it.
But that's it. You will only step into step into being the second you stop pretending.
Absolutely. Queen of Pentacles in reverse.
You don't always have to play nice because nice and good are not the same thing.
Absolutely. Got to do it again. Okay, so the star and the sun in reverse went from surrounding the Six of Cups in reverse to the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. Something about that transition.
When you put down who they tell you to be. When you put down who they tell you to be. You return to the pieces of you that always were, that you had silenced under masks you were never meant to wear.
Absolutely. Death in reverse.
You have to lose part of you to find part of you. But you're never actually truly lost. You just forgot how to listen.
Absolutely. Queen of Wands. Oh, this is telling a story. I get it. It set you up to tell a story.
And now we found the fire again. Now we're at the spark. Now we're at the spark.
Yep.
So I'm just going to go from what I just said. It's when you listen that you find your spark. Because, like, to me, when you listen is when you're in your cave. That's when the echoes get the loudest. It's when all the versions step forward. And the second you light that match, and I'm going to call your match your spark, but the second you light it, you see the familiar faces that you ran from for so long.
Absolutely. The World in reverse.
And the moment you reignite your fire, the world you thought you knew crumbles. Because you're no longer looking through the lens of others and you're shifting into yours.
Absolutely. Four of Cups.
You're the only message you ever needed. And if you guys aren't familiar with the Four of Cups, somebody like sitting up against a tree and like there's a messenger like bringing a cup, right? And then the other ones are in front of you. So often we look for the message outside of us, not realizing that we were the only message we ever needed, which just keeps bringing it back full circle to if you can't listen, you'll never hear.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I need to find a way to get to the tower, and I want to do it in a way that allows you to tell a story, because I just got that idea when that just made a story. We're going to do rapid fire. Your higher self recognizes the coding on these cards and blurts out 8 of Cups.
Move.
Page of Pentacles.
You're missing what's right in front of your face.
Ace of Swords in reverse.
It's not in your mind, it's in your heart.
5 of Wands.
Not every fight requires your attention.
You know what? Take it. 9 of Swords with the Hierophant in reverse.
That was more about feeling, sorry. The Hierophant in reverse. Not every teacher brings a happy lesson.
Mm. The Empress.
The version of you exists, you just haven't stepped into it yet.
2 of Wands.
Sometimes the choice is the illusion.
Ooh. Hanged Man. Upright.
The lens was always available. It was just waiting for you to tune in.
4 of Swords.
The thoughts you attached to weren't actually yours.
King of Swords in reverse.
The confusion came from not listening.
Ooh. 9 of Wands in reverse.
Your fire's not always meant to be tamed.
3 of Pentacles in reverse.
Some moves are to be made alone.
Temperance.
You were never not in balance. You just thought you weren't.
Absolutely. King of Cups in reverse.
Your feelings were always meant to be felt, and sometimes that's messy.
Mm-hmm. Very messy at times. The Lovers in reverse.
You were always whole and never broken.
This one's going to be a transition. Boom, boom, boom. 7 of Pentacles in reverse. The Devil. Oh, okay. And 7 of Swords in reverse.
The 7 of Pentacles in reverse. Don't be afraid to uproot yourself when you know you've outgrown your environment. And the Devil upright. The mind games you play with yourself are worse than any betrayal outside of you. What was the last one? I'm sorry.
7 of Swords in reverse.
That kind of just goes back with the Devil. But the second you stop telling yourself no is the moment self-betrayal ends.
Absolutely. Page of Wands in reverse.
You were never meant to control your fire.
You were meant to blank. Wheel of Fortune in reverse. Interesting.
Wheel of Fortune in reverse. You were not always meant to control your fire, because control is what kept you trapped.
Absolutely. The Fool in reverse.
The journey only began when you realized that it was you.
Ooh. There it is. The Tower in reverse. Of course, it came after the Fool in reverse. That doesn't surprise me.
The Tower in reverse, the only thing that I just keep hearing is you have returned.
You had to lose yourself and have stuff not go your way to find yourself again in return.
Yes.
The Magician came after him.
And now it makes sense that is all that they gave me. I'm like, why are
From
you
the
just...
Fool in reverse to the Tower in reverse.
Because you've returned to who you were. I love this so much. You've returned to who you were.
I love this.
You always have been. After putting down all the masks of who you had to be.
Right. You had to be the fool to get the wisdom to learn that you were always the magician.
Yes.
Strength, of course. Why would any other card come after that?
Okay, but that's it. You finally got to stop being the strong one. You finally got to return to who you were before you had to be the strong one.
Yeah. Absolutely. What do I have here? I want to do something different. Okay, we have 4 left. I'm going to flip the 3 cards. One accumulated lesson from those cards. If someone could take a puzzle piece from everything we've discussed today, what would that puzzle piece be? And then I'm going to flip the last card over for you to kind of sign the puzzle piece. Like you're giving them a puzzle piece and you're signing it. 3 of Cups in reverse, 7 of Cups in reverse, Queen of Swords in reverse. Oh, there's 2 more.
If you gave yourself permission to put it all down, what would you find? If you gave yourself permission to remember what it feels like not to wear a mask, who would you be?
Absolutely. The Hermit in reverse. 6 of Swords.
When you reemerge, you will realize. Of course, I'm going to choke on my spit now. When you reemerge, you will realize that the past was never something that you needed to run from. Because it's only in the moments where you return to all of the versions of you that you integrate the wisdom you've been seeking outside of you.
Absolutely. So that advice, it can really help to dismantle a particular shadow. Describe the shadow that can disintegrate from the acceptance and embodiment of what you just spoke about.
The need for external validation. That is the part of the shadow that disintegrates, that collapses, that merges. Because once you no longer need those things outside of you, because that's what so many of us get caught up in seeking, is being heard, being seen, being understood, when we can't even give that to ourselves. So we keep chasing that need for somebody to make our truth more truth. It was always truth. You have always been the proof of it. But that need for external validation collapses when you learn to actually sit with yourself and integrate the wisdom. Everybody always wants the wisdom, but they don't realize who they have to sit with to get it. You have been the answer. The piece you're looking for is you, but you keep looking for validation outside of yourself, realizing that all it's confirming is more of you.
Absolutely. And the Hermit can represent extreme isolation, and the Six of Swords is going into calmer water. So this is like literally the only way out is going deep into facing this shadow that this advice that Erin just gave will help you dismantle. I don't even think you realized that was
the only,
because this was covering it.
Through. The only way out is through. And you're not going
absolutely
without all of you. That's
through the shadow.
Not going without all of you, because you were never not whole to begin with. So the second that you go back into your cave, your self-reflection, your introspection, that's where you're going to hear the wisdom. Because it's not your past haunting you, it's wisdom returning to you. And the only way out is through.
It's like if this guy on this boat was told, bring this person, but don't go until all the swords are on the boat. This guy's not going to leave till all the swords are on the boat. He's going to get fired. That's your higher self. Your higher self's like, I don't want 80% of you. Get the rest. Get it on the boat. I'll wait.
Yes.
When you're ready, go deep into this extreme isolation and face it. And then you can reconnect with that version of yourself.
Yes.
Through the shadow of glorified burnout. Overwork, mistaken for worth. Not feeling worthy unless you're actively earning it by sacrificing yourself. This wound arises when doing becomes your identity and exhaustion is worn like a badge of honor. You learned that rest is weakness and productivity earns love. It can leave you depleted, resentful, and unsure who you are without the constant striving and how to let yourself be seen.
Every single card.
Do you have any final words? I cannot thank you enough for being here. This is going to help so many people. I know that a lot of people are going to be able to really relate to a lot of this wisdom.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody who listened, and just thank you. That's about all I got today.
So Erin did not hear this last part.
Oh, plot.
Thank you. Truly, truly, truly. Yeah, Erin did not hear this part yet. She did hear the beginning. All the guests hear the beginning, and I tell them that the end is going to be written like a bookend to the beginning. Let me bring this screen up. Move. There we go. All right. She didn't come here to be understood. She came here to transmit. To stand barefoot in the rubble of what tried to break her and build a portal from the pieces. Erin didn't offer us answers wrapped in certainty. She offered us the echo of truth too ancient to explain, but impossible to ignore. What she shared today wasn't just insight, it was activation, a frequency that bypasses logic and speaks directly to the part of you that always knew this world wasn't quite what we're made to believe it is. She reminded us that the real work doesn't live in perfection or performance. It lives in the chaos of collapse and the courage to unbecome. She cracked open the silence and revealed it not as a void, but as a temple. She let us witness the kind of transformation that doesn't happen on stages or even in books, but in bathrooms at 3 a.m. In the stillness after the storm, in the sacred moment, you realize you don't need to be fixed, you need to be found. You finding yourself, bringing yourself home to yourself. Erin didn't just share a story, she dismantled a system. The system that taught us to shrink, to perform, to wait for permission to exist. And in doing so, she gave us something rare, not just language, but remembrance. Not just reflection, but resurrection. If your ribs rattled, if your gut tightened, if tears came without warning, don't brush that off. That was your soul recognizing itself. And if something inside you whispered, this is it, this is what I've been waiting for, then let this be the moment that you stop waiting. Let Erin's reckoning crack something open in you, so wide, so real, that pretending is no longer an option. Because what she brought us today wasn't just her voice, it was permission. It was prophecy. It was the sound of a woman becoming a world and daring us to do the same. So if this moved you, share it like it's sacred, because it is. There's someone out there still holding their breath, still hiding their magic, still wondering if they're too much or not enough. Let this be the sign they didn't know they needed. We are not here to entertain. We're here to awaken. This is Humans for Humanity, and this was the reckoning of the living code. This was the sound of homecoming. Thank you so much again, Erin, for being here. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you to everyone for watching as well. Yes. Give me about a week to get Erin's recap and everything up. I'm still working on Ryan's. That should be up next week. I have Jen coming in as the next guest. I'm not sure exactly what day yet because she's in Bali. So we're want to try and get this while she's still there. I think that would be an awesome experience. So I'm trying to work out schedule that as the next guest. I am also, a lot of people have been asking, I am working on an application for Humans for Humanity. I do have a group of guests scheduled out now. So it will be a bit before those start being filmed, but there will be an application. So thank you so much to everyone for watching. Thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you.
I will see you all soon for the next episode.
Bye.